I am challenging him, ituro mong opisina na corrupt. Do it, because if not, I will just tell the people, do not vote for Pacquiao because he is a liar. Kakalabanin kita panahon ng eleksyon. Pag hindi, I will just be another son of a playing politics. Wala ka namang sinabi noong all these years, puro ka praises ng praises sa akin. Tapos, ngayon sabihin mo, corrupt.
That was, of course, President Rodrigo Duterte threatening to trounce PDP Laban Acting President Senator Manny Pacquiao should he fail to expose officials allegedly involved in corruption.
The boxer-turned-senator already accepted the challenge, even thanking the president for the opportunity to help in the anti-corruption campaign. In a counterpunch to the president's words, he says he is not one to lie. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Let's start with President Duterte threatening to campaign against Pacquiao should the lawmaker fail to back up his claims that corruption persists in this government.
Without PDP Laban on his side, Pacquiao tells Duterte, challenge accepted. Mayan Los Baños has the big story.
Senator Manny Pacquiao is facing what could be the biggest fight of his life. And no, it's not his upcoming match with Errol Spence. His big battle is happening outside the boxing ring. His challenger, President Rodrigo Duterte. In his talk to the people, the president dared Pacquiao to substantiate his claims that corruption worsened under the current administration.
Wala ka namang sinabi noong all these years, puro ka praises ng praises sa akin. Tapos, ngayon sabihin mo, corrupt. Ang corruption, marami na, pero napaalis na. Naunahan na kita.
Duterte says his government is doing its best to rid the country of corruption, even vowing immediate action should the senator hand him a list of corrupt officials. But if not,
if you fail to do that, I will campaign against you. Do it, because if not, I will just tell the people, do not vote for Pacquiao because he is a liar.
in his recent speeches, Pacquiao has been claiming that corruption remains to be a huge problem in the country, something he reiterated last week during an interview on Radio 5's Filon.
Kung sakaling dumating man yung time na makapag-desisyon ako tumuloy o tumakbo, yan ang advocacy ko, yung declaring war against corruption. Declaring war against corruption is bigger than illegal drugs.
Members of the PDP Laban are siding with the president.
Bakit niya kailangan sabihin yun o magsalita ng ganyan na hindi man lang nakipag-usap sa mga kapartido? Ang ating Pangulo very passionate against corruption.
The palace said that Duterte and Pacquiao's relationship may not be as cordial as it once was, but the president's challenge is clear.
Walk the talk, no? Kinakailangan kung may reklamo ka, sabi mo kung anong reklamo niya na ma-aksyonan ng presidente. Otherwise, talaga namumuliti ka lang daw si Senator Pacquiao. But I guess as far as your question is concerned, natapon na po ang sabaw, kumbaga.
Just this afternoon, Pacquiao has accepted President Duterte's challenge, saying it's an opportunity to help in the fight against corruption. He plans to start with the health department. In a statement, he also asserted that he is not a liar. Reporting for News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
As the ties between the president and his party mate, Senator Manny Pacquiao, begin to show cracks, what might this mean for the future of their party, PDP Laban? Let's get answers from their Acting Secretary General, Melvin Matibag. Mr. Matibag, welcome po to The Big Story.
Good evening, Robbie. Good evening, Gretchen. And good evening to all your viewers.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo. Sir, can Manny Pacquiao stay on sa PDP Laban? Narinig po natin ang payo ng Pangulo sa kanya. What is the advice of the party?
Ano po nakakalungkot nga kasi he is an acting president of the party. Tapos siya pa yung unang-unang nagsasalita ng hindi maganda dun po sa administrasyon na namumuno sa ating pamahalaan ngayon. Tama po yung description dito ni Secretary Kusina, sinusunog mo yung bahay kung saan ka nakatira. Baka dapat lumabas ka ng bahay kung saan ka nakatira bago mo ito sunugin.
So you are essentially telling him he might as well, I mean, this is not necessarily news. You now have the party and leaders of the party essentially telling it's acting president, it's acting, yes, president, you might as well leave the party. What might that mean for the PDP laban?
Kasi even before, dun sa mga previous pronouncement ng PDP namin, yung PDP na sumusuporta kay Pangulo, he's been singing the tune of the opposition. Parang ang linya na ng mga dilaw eh. Pag tinignan mo naman yung sinabi niya na sagot challenge accepted, hindi naman bago yun eh. Yan na yung mga nababasa sa Facebook ng mga nagkikriticize kay Presidente. Kaya there's nothing new. That's very generic. So I don't know. I'm sad na ganun yung salita ng aming acting president, and I'm sure the party, the leadership will deal with it properly in the right time.
Now, sir, pasensya na. Let me seize on something you just said. I don't know if that was a slip or I don't know if that actually says something. You said yung PDP kanyo na sumusuporta sa Pangulo. Meron po bang PDP? Meron po ba mga miyembro ng PDP na hindi necessarily suportado ang Pangulo?
Hindi yung slip kasi, sabi ko nga, yung linya nga ni Senator Pacquiao, linya na nga ng mga dilaw yung sinasabi niya eh. So, ibig sabihin, opposition na yung linya niya eh. That's why, if he's singing the tune na gano'n, he might as well join the opposition kung gano'n yung sinasabi niya.
Okay, Mr. Melvin Matibag of PDP Laban, maraming salamat po. Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, who also serves as PDP Laban's Vice Chairman, also said that President Duterte had not been consulted and was unaware of the party presidency being turned over to Pacquiao. But former PDP Laban President and now Executive Vice Chairman Senator Coco Pimentel defended the move. Tonight's big words, Pimentel says giving Pacquiao the post is a gesture of goodwill to help him in his political plans for 2022. From one party mate to another, he said Pimentel also told Cusi to instead focus on the country's power shortage problems.
These are the other big stories tonight. In a surprise proposal, Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia wants Cebu's policies on returning Filipinos to be applied even to Cebu residents only. Laguna now has the most number of COVID-19 infections outside Metro Manila. Across the country, however, reproduction rate has gone down below 1. And did Taal volcano's emission really cause the haze which blanketed the metro? One scientist says it may be industrial-induced. These big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Up until this morning, haze continued to cover the Metro Manila skyline, but was it really caused by volcanic smog from Taal volcano? One scientist is offering a different theory. Shaila Francisco has this report.
Starting Monday afternoon, haze blanketed most of Metro Manila. And up until Tuesday morning, some areas are still enveloped in haze, alarming Metro Manila residents.
Nataka kami kung bakit. Akala namin pauwi na lang kami kung tutuloy ulan.
Medyo maitim nga at parang ang tutuusin, parang pumutok na bulkan nga yata o ano eh. Yun lang ang akin napansin.
In a bulletin on Monday, PHIVOLCS warned of the Taal volcano's sulfur dioxide emission, which resulted in volcanic smog or fog. The active volcano emitted an average of 14,326 tons of sulfur dioxide, a significant increase from the average of 4,771 tons per day last week. But the haze in NCR is not VOC. At least that's what Dr. Renato Solidum of the Science Department told Radio 5.
Ang nangyari sa Metro Manila, hindi po ito volcanic smog. Ito po ay normal na industrial and of course vehicle emission na kung saan ang nangyari po ay makulimlim din ng panahon dahil ang ulap ay mataas.
The Environmental Management Bureau, however, says the VOG may still have contributed to the haze. Based on its air quality monitoring on Monday afternoon, 4 cities registered air pollution classified as unhealthy for sensitive groups. The EMB noted the amount of sulfur dioxide release and the wind direction could have still affected Metro Manila.
Kahapon medyo unusual siya talaga dahil medyo nag-unhealthy, nag-orange po siya. Kung ang direksyon ng hangin natin papunta sa northeast, papunta sa Metro Manila, ay maaring madala niya yon at maaring makapag-contribute. So maaring mix siya ng roadside activities, highly urbanized centers activities. At the same time, yung pagbuga ng Taal Volcano.
The EMB, however, says further studies needed to determine how much the VOG contributed to the haze. For now, the public, especially those with respiratory diseases, is advised to stay at home should the haze occur again. Shaila Francisco, VR 1 News.
The province of Laguna replaces Davao City with the most number of new COVID-19 cases outside NCR. Latest data showed Laguna having 307 new cases as of Monday, slightly above the 300 new infections recorded in Davao. Meanwhile, the R0 or the rate of COVID-19 transmission in the country is now below 1 at 0.92. The same goes for the capital region with an R0 of 0.80. New quarantine classifications for the month of July are also out. 20 areas including Cagayan, Iloilo City, and Davao City are under modified enhanced community quarantine until July 15. Metro Manila remains under GCQ with some restrictions along with the provinces of Rizal and Bulacan, while GCQ with heightened restrictions will be implemented in Laguna and Cavite. 26 other cities and provinces are under general community quarantine until the end of the month. The rest of the country is under a less restrictive modified GCQ. Time for our next look at some of today's big stories. Taguig and Mandaluyong temporarily halted their vaccinations as they await the certificate of analysis needed to administer Sinovac shots. The health department said the vaccine manufacturer is set to issue the COA until tomorrow for its latest batch of doses delivered on June 24. Vaccinations in Taguig have resumed since Monday, but only for those scheduled to receive their second dose. The IATF has extended travel restrictions to various countries until July 15. The palace says this is part of the Philippines' border control measures to prevent the transmission of the Delta variant. Countries included in the moratorium are India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, UAE, and Oman. And the palace announced that fully vaccinated Filipinos will undergo a shorter quarantine period upon return to the country. Spokesperson Harry Roque said that starting July, they would only spend 7 days in quarantine sites from the original 10. This move, however, only covers fully vaccinated Filipinos from low-risk countries. Now for the big story in sports. Filipina golfers YUKA, SASO, and Bianca Pagdanganan have officially sealed their slots in the upcoming Tokyo Olympics. SASO, the reigning U.S. Women's Open champion, ranked 9th in the final edition of the Olympic golf ranking. Pagdanganan, who also turned heads during her rookie year at the LPGA, made the cut, placing 42nd in the rankings. The Philippines will have 3 golfers in the Tokyo Olympics, and this boosts the country's total number of delegates to 17. Time for another quick break. When we return, how would you feel if you received your salary but all in loose coins? That's what happened to a factory worker in Valenzuela. And a medtech in Surigao is redefining dedication as she finished her laboratory work despite an ongoing fire nearby. Her story after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. The Cebu government and the Interagency Task Force have yet to reach a middle ground regarding rules on returning overseas Filipinos. With that, current arrangements will have to stay. The key points of that meeting in Dale De Vera's report.
The Interagency Task Force and the Cebu Provincial Government are on a deadlock as regards returning overseas Filipinos. The IATF wants Cebu to abide by its rules. For returning Filipinos to undergo a full 10-day quarantine in a hotel, there will be a swab test on the 7th day. Even with a negative result, the OFW must finish the rest of the days at home. But in a surprise proposal, Governor Gwen Garcia wants an exemption for returning Cebu residents. Like their previous guidelines, they want returning Cebuanos to be allowed not to finish their entire quarantine if they have negative results.
Allow us to be responsible for the people who gave us this authority. Allow us to be able to face them and say, we are accountable to you. We will serve you with our utmost best.
The IATF are at a loss with the request for an exemption.
How can it be not clear this resolution of the IATF will be implemented in accordance with its very clear provisions?
I cannot implement two differing policies or rules. The rules of engagement should be the same.
Garcia insisted they are so far successful in managing the COVID crisis in their area to the point that they've maintained the least restrictive MGCQ status for over a year. IATF Co-Chairman Carlo Nograles has yet to finalize any middle ground. Their next round of consultation has yet to be determined after the technical working group meets with their provincial counterparts. For the meantime, as it stands, Cebu returnees must undergo swab upon arrival, finish a full 10-day quarantine, and get another swab on the 7th day. For News 5, Dale De Vera, we're One News.
Salary in the form of centavo coins in pouches welcomed the factory worker in Valenzuela City after work for 2 days. Bad trip yun. But is it illegal? We're not used to it, but is there anything here that can be legally challenged? Mobile journalist Judy Baiza gives us a front seat to the story.
After days of hard work, employees look forward to paydays. But that may not be the case for one factory worker in Valenzuela City. Russell Manyosa was given 1,000 pesos worth of his 2-day salary, all in loose coins. And not even in 1 peso coins, but in centavos. Netizens sympathize with the factory worker in the now viral story. This also reached the office of Valenzuela City Mayor Rex Gatchalian. He met with Manyosa and representatives of the Next Green factory. Manyosa claims the management intentionally gave him his salary in coins after he complained about alleged unfair labor practices within the company. But the company claims it was all just a mix-up and that the coins were to be donated to church. But Mayor Rex isn't buying this excuse. He says their business permit may be suspended if found liable for the incident.
Parang tugma yung amount doon sa halaga ng sweldo niya. If it's accidental, how come may butal?
Manyosa's case is nothing new. Last month, a similar complaint reached the Office of Public Affairs broadcaster Rafi Tulfo. The worker seeking complaint was given 2 sacks of coins worth 7,000 pesos. While money is still money, regardless of the form, as compensation is small coin denominations allowed under the Constitution.
Sa striktong interpretasyon, wala namang kasing nagsasabing batas na hindi ka pwedeng magbayad ng barya sa mga tauhan mo. So, because of yung ganong limitasyon, pwede din nating sabihin walang nababiolate na batas.
Though it's legal, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas puts a limit to how much one can pay in coins. 1, 5, and 10 peso coins may be used to pay for an amount not exceeding 1,000 pesos, while for smaller denominations like 5, 10, and 25 centavos, the limit is 100 pesos. Attorney DJ says the aggrieved person may also file a complaint for unjust vexation, but the criminal intent to annoy someone must be present. He adds these cases of unusual payment methods call for specific guidelines on compensation from the Department of Labor. Julie Baiza, We Are One News.
Last week, President Duterte said he wants to arm civilians who volunteer to assist in law enforcement. The palace said that's not yet policy and was merely an idea, but this is not the first time Duterte pushed for such a move. Back in 2018, he offered to allow barangay officials to use firearms. Later that year, he also wanted to arm trainees under the ROTC program. The very next day in Zamboanga City, the president said he wants to provide shotguns and 22 caliber firearms to barangay tanods. And then in 2019, the president proposed to include firemen in the list of armed authorities. This request also made it law when just this year, Senator Bato de la Rosa included a provision that would arm some 2,000 firemen under the BFP modernization bill. Other senators have blocked this provision, which proposes a budget of 36,000 to arm each fireman for a total of almost 80 million pesos.
Here are the other big stories from around the world. A huge fire broke out near a major train station in London, sending vast plumes of smoke over parts of the city. About 100 firefighters fought for 2 hours to bring the blaze under control. And of the 6 people treated at the scene by London Ambulance Service, 1 was taken to the hospital. The cause of the fire is still unknown and is still being investigated. Search and rescue teams pulled 2 more bodies from the concrete and steel rubble of a condominium which collapsed in Florida. This brings the death toll to 11, with 150 people still listed as missing 4 days after the disaster. The search crew had been stymied by the constant threat of further collapse, where 55 of the 136 units of the condominium crashed to the ground. Another big story in sports. Gilas Pilipinas will have an even tougher task come the Olympic qualifying tournament after some key players continue to deal with injuries. Head coach Tab Baldwin said Dwight Ramos will unlikely play for Gilas as he has yet to recover from his groin injury. Aside from Ramos, other Gilas Pilipinas players battling injuries are Carl Tamayo and Angelo Kwame. Tamayo is continuing to recover from a sprained ankle, while Kwame is nursing a deep knee contusion. Gilas will play its first OQT game against Serbia on Thursday.
At the age of 17, actress Millie Bobby Brown already knows it all too well, that women are treated differently in the industry. In an interview with News 5, Millie bared that she's had her fair share of discrimination in male-dominated Hollywood. She has joined the long-standing call for reforms.
Even if you're not in this industry, every girl has been in a situation that has made them understand and realize that they're being treated a little bit differently. Women have been playing that game, and it's like not a game anymore. Like we gotta stop.
Millie reprises her role as Madison in the movie Godzilla vs. Kong, taking place 5 years after the events in Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Madison returns to put an end to the clash of the Titans. Millie identifies with her character's independence and strength.
I share quite a few characteristics with Madison. I was about to say 11, so excuse me, I'm so
Madison.
sorry. Yeah, I know. It's because I'm filming right now, so it's like all I'm talking about is 11. But you know, I share a few characteristics of Madison. Madison's quite feisty, and that's definitely something I share. I'm quite a feisty girl, and she also shares her opinion. You know? She'll tell you and she'll put you in your place.
As for the series that made her a household name as 11, Millie says Stranger Things Season 4 is now in production. Creators said filming is set to wrap up in August. For News 5, MJ Marfori, we are One News.
In Surigao del Sur, a medical technologist is gaining online traction for finishing her lab test. Never mind the fire nearby. According to uploader Stefan Balani, the incident happened right before his duty. Stefan's brave colleague, Jaya Ginge, chose to stay on and continue cross-matching blood for a newborn patient. For Jaya, the test had to be released as soon as possible since blood transfusion requires no room for errors. Stefan was all praises for Jaya heeding the call of duty.
You know, there should be a test for staying calm under pressure, ano?
Napakaraming bayani, di ba? Tsaka anybody who's delivered the baby or welcomed the baby knows na yun nga, those tests are crucial, the first hours.
It's amazing. Her focus, I think I need some of that.
Saludo kami sa'yo, Jaya.
That wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.
Ang Luchi, tapos sa